All right, let's talk about something that trips up pretty much everyone learning English. And heck, even native speakers can get this one mixed up sometimes. I'm talking about will versus going to. What is the real difference?
So take a look at this. I will see you tomorrow versus I am going to see you tomorrow. I mean, both sound totally fine, right? You've probably said both of them. But if they mean the exact same thing, why do we have two ways to say it? Are they really interchangeable?
You know, back in school, we all learned some pretty simple rules for this. But here's the thing. Those rules, they're not exactly set in stone. In fact, as we're about to see, they start to fall apart in some really fascinating situations. Okay, so let's start with a refresher. We're going to go back to the basics, the rules we all learned from our textbooks. They pretty much boil down to two big ideas: plans and predictions. Okay, rule number one is all about your intentions. Think of it like this. Will is for those spur-of-the-moment decisions. It's spontaneous. But going to is for something that was already in your calendar, a plan you made before you even started talking. So you see it right here. I will help you. That's an on-the-spot offer, an immediate reaction. But Susan, she is going to paint the bathroom. That feels like it's been on her to-do list for a while, right? There was some planning involved. All right, the second big rule is about making predictions. Will is for when you're just using your gut, your opinion. It's a prediction coming straight from your brain. Going to, though, that's when you have evidence right in front of your face, something you can see or hear right now. And yeah, this makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? I think he will take the job. That's pure opinion. You're just guessing. But when you say, take your umbrella, it is going to rain, you're probably looking at some seriously dark clouds. That's real physical evidence. So there you have it. The rules seem nice and neat, don't they? Spontaneous versus planned, opinion versus evidence. Easy. But what happens when we throw a wrench in the works? This is where things get really fun. Check this out. This is a real weather forecast from the BBC, and it's a fantastic puzzle. The forecaster says the night is going to be rather cloudy, okay? But then, in the very next breath, they say most places will remain dry and the temperature will fall. What's going on? Why the sudden switch? This is the big question, isn't it? Our simple textbook rules don't cover this at all. If it's all one big prediction, why use both? Is it just random? Or is there something deeper going on here, a logic that the forecaster is using, maybe even unconsciously? Okay, for our next clue, we're going to look at something a little strange. It's an old grammar joke. A guy is drowning and he shouts, "I will drown, no one shall save me." Now that sounds wrong, right? But the joke works because historically, will meant I want to, and shall meant is obligated to. So he's basically screaming, I want to drown, and nobody is required to save me. It's a dark joke for sure, but it points to this older, deeper meaning of personal will versus some outside force. So all of this, the weird weather forecast, the strange joke, it's all pointing us to a much bigger, more powerful idea. Maybe it's not about memorizing a bunch of rigid rules. Maybe it's all about the speaker's perspective. It's about how they're connecting the future to what's happening right now. Okay, so here's the key for going to. Think of it as present connection. When you use going to, you're saying that the future is growing out of the present. It's the result of a plan you have now or evidence you can see now. The future is basically anchored to this very moment. And will? Well, it's the total opposite. Let's call it future detachment. When you use will, you're sort of floating above the present. You're just stating a future fact, almost like reading it from a crystal ball, without tying it back to what's happening right now. And suddenly, that confusing weather forecast makes perfect sense. The forecaster looks at his maps and data, the present evidence, and says it is going to be cloudy. That's his present connection. Then he just states the results of that. The temperature will fall, the places will remain dry. Those are just detached facts about the future that follow from the initial condition. See how that works? It's brilliant. All right, so let's wrap this all up. We can take this cool new idea about perspective and put it together with the old school rules to build a really useful guide. So here it is, the whole shebang in one table. At the very top, you've got our big idea: future detachment for will, present connection for going to. And look, the simple rules we talked about, spontaneous/opinion versus planned/evidence, they fit right under that big idea. They're just specific examples of it. Then you can see some other useful tidbits, like how going to is generally more informal, and will is what you almost always use in if sentences. So, what does this mean for you in your day-to-day life? Honestly, in most casual chats, you can probably use either one, and nobody will even notice. The lines have gotten really blurry, and you'll absolutely be understood.
But, and this is a big but, when it really matters, like in formal writing or a big presentation, understanding this little difference, oh, that's your superpower. It lets you be so much more precise and lets you control exactly how you frame your ideas about the future.
And that leaves us with one last big question. We all know language is always changing, right? I mean, Ghana is everywhere. So you have to wonder, as English keeps evolving, will future generations even make this distinction? Could the difference between will and going to just fade away? It's a cool reminder that the language we speak is alive and always in motion. Thanks for digging into this with me.